Salutations from space and aloha from Earth, friends. This is Gemini Brett here to share some thoughts and some feels about the Gemini New Moon of 2022. I thought it would be cool to start with a song. This is from the 13 New Moons of 22 record created by my dear friend Erik Deutsch, an amazing piano player, keyboard player, and we get together and turn charts into songs. So I send Erik astro harmony notes, some symbolic scenes to help some of the strong aspects of a chart come through. And he sits at the piano and makes magic. When we do this for natal charts, typically 12-minute songs. For the new moon songs of 2022, the 13 new moon songs of 2022, 7-minute-ish song. So we're going to start there. Looks like it's a 7-minute and 32-second song, the Gemini New Moon Jam, the 6th new moon of this calendar year. So this would be a wonderful time to just open your heart, maybe close your eyes, though I will put the chart on the screen, and receive this sensual musical direction, embody this chart, and set some intentions for this month ahead, this Gemini New Moon. Where does it live in your natal chart? Where does it align for your natal planets, this 10th degree of Gemini New Moon? And we'll see you on the other side of this 7-minute astro harmony magic. Amazing. Erik is such a master. And I love seeing that in this moment. It is 6:06 where I sit, because I just happen to have a wooden hexagon here for our jam today. And oh, 6 petaled mirror above my head, the 6 houses above the horizon. Greetings, friends. I'm so glad you're here. We were just listening to the music of the great Erik Deutsch, this soul song project of ours where we turn astrology charts like this into beautiful songs. You can hear all 13 of the 22 new moons by going to GeminiBrett.com/2022 moon songs. It's a hidden place at my site, by the way. But that will link you, if you just click the picture down here, to Erik's Bandcamp page. His new record, by the way, is amazing. Check that out while you are here. You can stream all these songs for free. You can also download the record for $7 or more, and we'll send you like 40 pages of my Astro Harmony notes. I was thinking about going to find those as you were listening, but I thought it might disrupt the song. And I'm actually wondering if, when I engage with this chart with new eyes here months after I did the first time to send Erik notes for the song, if it's the same kind of strong aspects of the chart that catch my eyes. I'm looking at Saturn squaring the nodes, as it has been, Neptune on the trine, and Mercury getting involved. This Mercury square Saturn, the Mercury sextile with Neptune, and trine with Pluto. And where I sit, that Pluto and Uranus thing was really powerful at the time of the new moon, as I will show you in a second. I just want to listen to the beginning of this song again, because it's so incredibly Gemini. Gemini, GeminWhy, GeminHow, GeminWho, GeminHi, and GeminHowDoYouDo. I got a story to tell to you about the winds of change that come to blow and rearrange your flow. Gemini, this trickster shapeshifter sign of eternal youth and mystery poems, but that playful way, right, of transmitting truth, that journey into the inquisitive place where we develop language and other tools, right? What does this Gemini new moon sing in your ears? How does it call your heart? What are your intentions for this month ahead? Isabel knows what she wants. She just brought in a ball skipping in. So you're probably going to hear a little bit of dog contributing here. A wonderful thing about this idea of Gemini being the winds of change that rearrange is I'm sitting in a room that's been here and been familiar to me for years now. And I just watched the beautiful belt of Venus that we see on clear days like this. When the sun is rising in the east, the belt of Venus in the west, this kind of lavender pink hue in Earth's shadow too. But I'm looking also from a brand new room, because Anna, who's experiencing this new moon in her 4th house, rearranged the whole place. And we did some rearrangement outside actually yesterday too. There's evidence here where we moved a couple plants in the garden around, and dug some holes, got underground, which always felt good. It's amazing to, align our activities to the essence of the astrological happenings. It's also wonderful just to do stuff and then reflect upon how that might be seen in the chart, The 4th house, and that's for my beloved for this particular new moon, not me so much, is also digging underground, 6 houses above the horizon and 6 below, the 6 we will never see with our eyes, but we can find, if we put our back to the 9th, for example, that we are facing somewhere below the ground, the 3rd. So I woke up this morning really inspired to wake up and get to the window to have some time with this Mars-Jupiter conjunction. I considered processing some of those photos before coming on to share some thoughts about this Gemini new moon with you, but knew that that would just take a lot longer than I thought it might. It always does. It always does. But let's journey to the wonderful astronomy software called Stellarium here. I'm going to make sure this is on your screen. Would seem as if it is so. This is kind of for the moment that I began this flow, which is fun. It actually looks like it's the Gemini new moon rise here, where I sit following the Pleiades into the sky. I'm going to take the ground away, and we will see how these degrees of this Gemini new moon, moon, sun, right, align to, I'm just wondering, who are you? A star. Let's make that moon a little bit bigger. Huh. Oh, it's a different stellarium than the one I'm running on my big computer. Anyway, this should work. It does. So the moon, who this now is passing north of the sun, right? Eclipse season was last month, is in the same degree of the zodiac as Ein, one of the eyes of the bull, and very close to Aldebaran, the other eye of the bull, the ancient marker of the east, one of the four royal stars. So that might be a strange thing to see, because you might believe that Gemini is these fellows over here. Not in our day and age. Signs and constellations, friends, are very different things. If you haven't gotten hip to that yet, I'm here to give you the news in true Gemini messenger fashion. The tropical signs are about Earth's directions, like the North Pole of Earth is leaning right there in every moment forever, and I'm circling 0 degrees Cancer. So in our day and age, Gemini is hosted by the celestial bull. The Pleiades mark the gateway for tropical Taurus and Gemini. So we see Mercury here, who soon will station direct and loop back to the Pleiades and move from Taurus to Gemini once again for the second time in recent month. During this Mercury retrograde, Mercury will come back into Gemini and eventually go behind the sun. But today we are here to celebrate moon between us and that light, Gemini new moon, which does align to this royal star Aldebaran. So what does that mean? Well, many talk about it's the bullseye or the bullshit. Sorry, pardon my language, but you know, Gemini is about language of all types. That these royal stars really enhance the power and the the purpose of a moment like this Gemini new moon. But if we don't do it right, if we don't do it with honor, maybe with this star particularly with integrity, then it tends to get the better of you, of us, of the world. So something to pay particular attention to. We don't have Gemini new moons at the eye of the bull too often. We'll have one there for sure in 19 years. That's the Metonic cycle. And sometimes in between, but this one is very strongly configured. Maybe I'll put that. Well, let's just use Stellarium here. The sun at this time is at 69 degrees of celestial longitude. And that means, friends, in our language, 9 degrees Gemini, because we measure from right here, 0 degrees tropical Aries. Right? And the astronomers do too, even though they deny the truth of the tropical zodiac and tropical astronomy, they're utilizing it because this crossing of the celestial equator in the ecliptic, which we astrologers call 0 degrees tropical Aries, is where they begin both right descension along this plane and celestial longitude along this plane called the ecliptic, which I like to call the circle of spirit. The place that the sun dwells, where this equator, the circle of matter, the equator of Earth. All right, so 69 degrees celestial longitude in our language means 9 degrees tropical Gemini. And in our day and age, Aldebaran, the eye of the bull, is at 10. So you see up here, if you can, 70 degrees of celestial longitude. That's 30 plus 30 plus 10, sign plus 10, Aries plus Taurus, 10 degrees Gemini, right? So the sun and the moon met at 9. Here's the chart, 9 degrees. Hey, that's not a new moon. Hold on a second. That's a new moon, and 9 degrees and 3 minutes. Such wonderful numbers, 9s and 3s and 6s of tropical Gemini, right? So just within a degree of the royal star Aldebaran, there are 4 royal stars, the Eye of the Bull, across the sky on the other side, the heart of the Scorpion, Antares, 10 degrees Sagittarius in our day and age, Regulus, the heart of the Lion, which has recently moved into the tropical sign of Virgo in 2012, and Familo, the eye of the southern fish, upon which the water bearer of the sky sits or stands or pours water, or who knows, about 4 degrees tropical Pisces in our day and age. Anyway, so this morning I woke up and looked at the sky. It was not like this yet. It was more kind of a rewinding time. I think sometime here when I got to look outside. And I didn't see pretty cartoon pictures in the sky or even these lines. In fact, I didn't see any stars at all. Maybe it was a little bit later for me. I did see Saturn, who is now in the sign of Aquarius, Saturn's diurnal home, according to the tradition. This house called Aquarius is Saturn's place in traditional thought. This place called Aries, the house of Mars. In this place called Taurus, the house of Venus. So there's a lot of essential dignity this month, and we'll see even when Mercury returns to Gemini, that fortified even more. Mercury in Gemini, Venus in Taurus, Mars in Aries, Saturn in Aquarius. A lot of planets at home. So what might that mean? Especially when we consider this within like kind of the heart of Gemini, which is a sign that likes to be on the move, you know, and Sagittarius full moon, certainly so. I want to just zoom in here to this beautiful Mars-Jupiter conjunction. Their exact conjunction was yesterday, May 29th, which looked like this. So not an occultation, but pretty close. Jupiter at the time, let's see, had a latitude of -1, so 1 degree south of the ecliptic plane, and for Mars, almost -2, -1 3/4. So they were about 3/4 degrees apart during their conjunction. One of the reasons why I wanted to zoom in here is to see which of the Galilean moons I was noticing in the sky this morning. Wow, this is cool. Let me stop time. Because the configuration was rather different this morning than this is yesterday. This is what I saw this morning. Well, now they're off the screen. Hold on. Jupiter, where hast thou gone? Yeah, wow, cool. What a difference a day makes. So this morning, I guess I saw Ganymede and Io, maybe it was Callisto and Ganymede. I'll share my picture. And I saw Europa as well. So these 4, Callisto, Ganymede, Io, and Europa, we know as the Galilean moons. Why? Because they were seen in the telescope, you know, discovered by Galileo. Now, Galileo named them after the 4 sons of Cosimo de' Medici. And perhaps that was a money grab, maybe not. Amazingly, on the back of Galileo's first drawings of the craters of the moon, which really were kind of another discovery of Galileo's thanks to this advancement in technology in his telescope, on the back of these drawings of the moon, which themselves have a beautiful name, celegraphs maybe, like selenite, Selene, the moon. I think it's called a celegraph. On the back we see his beginning sketch of the chart of Cosimo de' Medici II. Right? So again, maybe a money grab worked out for him. You know, same reason why William Herschel named Uranus George, the Georgian star, to get that, you know, royal astronomer position. Worked out for him too. I can't say that those were Galileo's only considerations in naming these four moons after Cosimo de' Medici, but that didn't stick. They were named after Galileo. Now, typically we would think of these inventions, these expansions, thanks to technology, perhaps in a more Uranian fashion in modern astrology, right? Uranus, of course, not known as a planet to Galileo, but I believe that planet and Neptune alike were lensed by his telescope. So Aquarius, we typically think of this kind of invention, mad scientist, revolutions, you know, technological advancements, perhaps the planet Uranus contributing. But, you know, there's a lot of Mercury in this as well, this kind of inventive mind. I mean, even the need to invent, you know, craftiness, cunningness, which of course can sometimes be that trickster shape, but sometimes is exactly what we need to survive and make it through, right? So how does Aries Mars survive, and how is Jupiter making that big right now? How, or maybe a better question is, why does Taurus Venus survive? And what is the use of this Gemini energy for us here as we dance through life and try to navigate this world with the appearance of space and time to which we incarnate, so we can grow through feeling, healing, and knowing? And how might Mercury, the so-called dispositor of this Gemini new moon, which resides in his home, retrograde now in the sign of Taurus, near the Pleiades, this beautiful cluster, which our day and age on the back of the celestial bull marks the gateway between Taurus and Gemini. Mercury looking back and aligned in really strong conversations with Saturn and with those beyond, those invisible beings, Neptune and Pluto. How might that guide the monthly synod or meeting of the moon and the sun at this time? It's amazing thing, this language of astrology, that with its strange syntax and grammar, that, you know, a Gemini new moon would have us looking at Mercury, even like, you know, what's the astronomical purpose or reason of that? And I think that's a wonderful time also for us to investigate, you know, the why and the very rules themselves, maybe even challenge them, shake them up. Gemini new moon, Aries Mars conjoined Jupiter. That's espresso in the Stargazer cup today, for sure. What would Taurus Venus say? There's a lot of like active energy here, and how can we find space to chill? All right, let me title this chart now that I have it right and put it on the screen once again. It suddenly got very populated, very busy, which is a good Gemini word. I'm not going to keep them on the screen too long, but here you can see some of the, well, the first four discovered asteroids being Ceres here, who's hanging out with the true black moon in Cancer. Let's get a little pointer device. And Pallas Athena, who was rising here locally at the time of this Gemini new moon. This is Sedna, where Mercury currently spins. Eris, right? Dwarf planets, those two, like Pluto in this modern designation, Vesta and Juno. And I'm going to take those off the screen now. Can get a little cluttered when we honor all of these beings and look instead at these visible lights: Uranus, Neptune, Pluto, Chiron here now at 15 Aries. And we'll keep the true black moon on the screen because she tells me a lot about the moon, actually. This point is where the moon's orbit is furthest from Earth. We have company and the dog is excited. And that means that now with moon very close to Lilith, as we've come to call this apside, the lunar apogee, really the Lilith is the dark foci of the moon Earth ellipse. But when we turn our bodies towards that true black moon, as it's called, we are facing the lunar apogee where the moon is far away. So I can just see here that the moon is far, small, slow. If it was close enough to the node to be an eclipse, and that's not happening, that was last month, right? This would be an annular eclipse because the moon is not currently large enough in our sky to occult the entire sun disk. Every month the moon gets close and big and far and small, close and fast and far and slow. So interestingly, we have a lot of very slow planets at this time. Mercury is stationing, right? Mercury will station direct after about 3 weeks of retrograde travel in 3 days from this Gemini new moon at 26 Taurus 05, right? Which means in 3 days, Mercury's only going to move backwards less than half a degree. More than half a degree, about half a degree, okay? So Mercury moving super slow, retrograde, hitting the brakes, about to turn around. And this is true for Saturn in a different direction. Saturn will actually station retrograde on the day that Mercury stations direct. And perhaps Mercury moving really slowly like this creates kind of a sympathetic channel to understand a little bit more about what Saturn is, right? So let's see, Saturn will station direct actually in 5 days, so a little bit after Mercury on June 4th, 2022 at 25:15. So you can see Saturn's only going to move 2 arc minutes before that station. So moving very slowly right now. Look at that, like less than about half an arc minute per day in Mercury currently, about 16 arc minutes per day. So super slow. And as we move through the next few days, they're just going to stop. Let me show you the moon. The moon moves on an average 13 degrees and 13 minutes per day, and she's currently moving less than 12, which is slow moon. So, you know, what signs are not really keen on slow? How about Aries? And Mars is moving plenty fast right now, 3/4 of a degree per day. That's pretty quick for Mars. And Jupiter moving fast as far as Jupiter goes right now, which is like 10 arc minutes per day. So Aries likes fast, right? And Gemini likes fast, but Mercury retrograde, like backwards and slow, hitting the brakes, about to change directions. Well, Mercury certainly is about changing directions, at least Gemini is, yeah. We have slow moon, slow Mercury, slow Saturn. And I'm showing this here locally. I should act locally, but think globally. So let me just make an adjustment. I will share that it's interesting to see where I sit. And we want to do this, right? We want to cast charts, look at them compared to our natal charts. Like my ascendant is 9.5 Gemini. So I'm very interested in this new moon being right there. My sun is in the 1st degree of Scorpio. So very interested in Venus being across the way. Yada, yada, yada. The Mars Jupiter squares my own Cancer Mars, which lives pretty close to where Lilith is in this chart, and all the things, and you have yours. And so how does it align for you? How does it align also with just kind of your local place where you are? Here in El Sobrante, California, where I live, This new moon aligned around 4:30 a.m. with Uranus on the rise and Pluto culminating. So it sure seems this idea of change that I feel in general in Gemini is like a song of this local space. But how, with Uranus and especially Pluto as very slow moving beings, how can we perhaps honor this kind of retrograde Taurus Mercury to allow for that need for change to be slow? This is the commands from the ringed one Saturn. Pace wins the race. Oh, the long con brings in the big haul. Like slow is the way, slow and steady. All right, let me reorganize this chart in such a way that speaks more globally. And I will take it from this house system that has my feet on local ground and a porphyry house system and go to the Earth's houses, which are the tropical signs, when Gemini is the third sign of the Earth. This is the astronomy of the natural zodiac. Why? Because this point, 0 degrees tropical Aries, to whom Mars and Jupiter are so closely aligned, to the point to which they are so closely aligned at this time. This point, 0 degrees tropical Aries, is always due east on the ecliptic from the center of Earth, where we are all connected. The tropical zodiac is a directional device. These cardinal sign cusps align to the cardinal directions: Aries east, Cancer north, Libra west, and Capricorn south. And that is the truth. That is Earth astrology, my friends. So what is thirdness about? When we think about Gemini as a third sign, and I just want to honor, first of all, that can be a beautiful way to think globally, as can an Aries, 0 Aries zodiac wheel, the so-called natural zodiac. But that could also take you very far from the most local space called you. Let's put the chart away and just rap about that really quickly, right? If you are Gemini rising like me, this is not your third sign, Gemini, that hosts this new moon. It is your first. It could be barely onto the 12th house side of your horizon, as it is for me, because I was born with 936 Gemini rising. And this current new moon is at 903 Gemini rising. But either way, first sign. So if you, like I, were born with Gemini on the rise, this new moon, this Gemini new moon of the year and every year, really is quite personal. It's about your path. It's about the star of the show, which is you. Where do you go? Why are you here? How shall you grow? What is the move? Yeah. So a good reminder, as well before I came into astrology, I started noticing that at this time of the year, I was incredibly productive. And just like songs would pour out, or well, this one year I wrote this like alien abduction musical, like in a month, and it never necessarily saw the light of day, though I did cast and start doing rehearsals for it and whatnot, but that wasn't where I was meant to be. Where I'm meant to be is astrology. And I shortly thereafter found my way through that weirdness of that play called Conspiracy Theorist to this space that I play within now, in that path, which I'm always reminded of when I think of the first house for all of us. Has been an interesting one, to say the least. And Gemini and interesting are words that are, well, we could say they themselves are twins. Anyway, I also have been very productive, well, since I found astrology, but recently it's been good, and I need that right now. I'm teaching 2 live classes every month for my School of Earth Astrology. Still totally open if y'all want to get down with the golden year, where I'm teaching about these archetypes, and I'm teaching astrological fundamentals, or fundamentals as I call them, as we are traveling with the golden year. Like this month's class will be on the rudder of the chart, which is the ascendant, the horoscopos, and the steersman For me, Gemini rising, so the steersman is Mercury, who lived in the 5th in Libra when I was born, with Pluto and opposite Jupiter, and on and on and on we go. And I'll speak about the other angles too, the cross of matter, to which we are, well, lightly tied, or perhaps nailed. Anyway, so I also teach sacred geometry classes, which is why I hold this hexagon in my hand. This actually has been a very important teacher in my life, not just the shape, but the room from which this particular cut comes, tale for another time. That's actually was a place where I very much started, and thanks to the graces of beings like astrology and sacred geometry, moving from my more kind of conspiracy dearest focus, as I like to call it, and into another view of the heavenly happenings, or at least balancing with the shadow with the light, as we should. So I'm also teaching sacred geometry and number magic in the School of Earth Astrology this year, the golden year, next year in the silver year, which will get more into the timing techniques, and we'll follow the one who moves so quickly, the moon. I'll be using our sister science of musical harmony to help us embody and feel the aspects of the chart. So we'll get back to the aspects of this chart, but maybe we'll just go around through these 12 signs. And maybe, you know what would be a fun way to do this is let's look at Astro Gold made this wonderful device for I think mostly for writing horoscopes, where we get to see how this moment, like a Gemini new moon, plays in the 12 different whole sign charts. This will be something that I'm utilizing in teaching today, as I'm going to be teaching dice games and how we can use dice like this, where I just rolled Capricorn on the 6th to know that that means a Leo rising chart. So I can ask questions like, who rules the 9th if, and I get Taurus on the 2nd, which means Jupiter, because Taurus on the 2nd is an Aries rising chart and the 9th is Sag and Jupiter, right? So to really just kind of expand our witness of the heavens, you know, which planet rules, the 6th if, and we get Capricorn on the 5th. That one's pretty easy. It's Saturn, because from Capricorn on the 5th, the 6th is Aquarius, yeah? Things like that. To like increase the speed. This is one of the purposes of Gemini, but also just these tools that we can use in playful ways, games, yeah, to like help us integrate and understand the 12-spoked wheel, as it were. So, I mean, this is beautiful. It's going to be small on many of your screens, I imagine. I'm going to show just the sun and the moon for a moment. Can I do that? Yes. Well, keeping the nodes on apparently. They make it a little bit easier to see that for Aries, this is a new moon in the 3rd, for Taurus in the 2nd, for Gemini in the 1st, for Cancer in the 12th, for Leo in the 11th, for Virgo, the Gemini new moon is in the 10th, for Libra in the 9th, for Scorpio in the 8th, for Sagittarius in the 7th, for Capricorn in the 6th, for Aquarius in the 5th, and for Pisces, this Gemini new moon is in the 4th, which is why I'm currently sit in a rearranged room, I'm sure, because my beloved caught the bug to change things around in the home, for she was born with Pisces on the rise. Oh, actually, we're not exactly sure of Anna's birth time, but it's things like this that help us rectify. A Gemini new moon, I come downstairs and everything's in a new place, and it's like interestingly reborn through a rearrangement. And I think this supports what we, I believe, now know, which was Pisces was on the rise when Anna was born. So there you go, Pisces rising people, a new moon in your 4th sign. Home, roots, ancestry, and with Mercury now looking back, for all of us, this new moon will allow us to kind of move forward and change, to rearrange, but likely by slowing down and looking back. I mean, even looking back to the new moon last month, which was this Taurus solar eclipse, this total lunar eclipse in Scorpio. You know, we're kind of coming out of eclipse season with this new moon. But as we move forward, we do this in a good way when we bring our past with us towards the future. This really allows us to embody the present, to be in the middle way. I think, by the way, we will soon be moving upstairs because it sounds like the young one is about to come down them. All right, well, you know what? Let's spin through these signs. And, you know, some would do this for the sun sign. That's a modern invention, and also ancient, like in India, for example, the Surya Lagna is just taking the sun and choosing that to be the first sign of a chart, Lagna being the ascendant. Chandra Lagna, a moon on the first chart, is much more utilized in that craft in Jyotish astrology. In, you know, the newspaper, where a horoscope means this column of, you know, what this is for each of the signs, it has become aligned to some sun sign design. It's really a new thing. Like back in the day, I would never say I was a Scorpio because that's where the sun was when I was born. No, I'd say I'm a Gemini because that was on the rise. Now, of course, we need a birth time to know a rising sign, and we only need a birthday to know a sun sign. So it's a lot easier to get people to play, especially like in this gateway to deep astrology, by playing with sun signs. But once we get into the tradition, we also know that for us, like me, who were born at night, moon is the sect light. So people like get angry at me that I call myself Gemini Brett because I'm a Scorpio. It's the strangest thing to me, especially because my horoscope, which means the ascendant, horoscopos, is Gemini, and my sect light, because I was born at night, the moon, also in Gemini. So there you go. In the shamanic astrology tradition, the paradigm where I started my formal astrological education with Daniel Giamario, we work with the moon in the ascendant like modern evolutionary astrologers work with the south and north lunar nodes. Like the moon's where you're coming from, the ascendant's what you're here learning, basically. And so I have these Gemini bookends according to the images of that tradition. So Gemini Brett, I hope you're cool with it because it's happening. Maybe someday I'll be Scorpio Brett or Brett Joseph. This Facebook made me take back my daddy's name, which, by the way, I would love to see that chart, and I can find that because I was actually with my father at the time in my grandfather's house shortly after he had just died. I was like standing, I don't know, feet away from the place where my grandfather had died a month before, when I was forced in the social weirdness realm to take his name back publicly. And I think that's a beautiful truth. So the name, where does a name live in your chart? Some might say the first, at least I'm playing that game, but many say the 10th because honors recognition, right? The 10th is much more than your vocation or your job or hopefully your right livelihood. We should all make a loving. So let's go through these signs. And if we want to go forward through the houses, this is a fun truth. You've got to go backwards through the signs. What do I mean? Well, say it this way. If you were born with Gemini on the rise, this new moon's on the first. Who are you? Where are you going? Where is your path? What is your purpose? And you might find that you are very reactivated, reborn, productive, creative. Creative tends to be much more of a fifth sign word. I'm interested, as I said before, I had noticed even before I came to astrology that this month of kind of May, June realm was very productive for me. Not knowing that it's the time of the year every year when the sun makes its way through my first house, the sign of Gemini. And I was born not with retrograde Mercury in Taurus, the situation for this current Gemini gateway, this Gemini new moon, but rather Mercury in the fifth, the house of passion and romance and risk and kids and creativity. So perhaps that's why I experience the Gemini light in the first and often in a fifth house way. So these are interesting things to consider for this Gemini new moon. Where does Mercury dwell in your chart? So where is Gemini on your chart? And I'll speak whole signs. And then also, where does Mercury live? Because you might feel this light, this meeting of the lights of moon and sun in the sign of Gemini will stimulate your kind of mercurial essence as well. So let's say you have, Gemini on the ninth, the place of study and spirit and divination, and Mercury lives in the, second for you, right? So how can you bring that act of astrology, for example, which is a ninth house thing, or other cultures in such a way to help you kind of tune into, well, your values? We say second house values and valuables, which I love that statement. I read that in Kamala Sutton in her in one of her Vedic astrology books, values and valuables, right? Like, I think the second in the way that we value ourselves is like this essential need for survival. And sometimes when we kind of expand our reach, that would be like ninth house, we can see more about what really like matters and bring that home. All right, so one weird potential example for Gemini on the ninth, which would be what? An Aquarius rising chart for those of you who have Mercury in the second in the sign of Pisces. Well, let's play more. These many branches I'm called to climb all emanate from the same trunk. This is a mantra that I utilize to keep myself grounded when I have, especially at this time, an espresso inspired Gemini mind that goes all over the place, many branches at once, but they all emanate from the same trunk. We'll just finish a thing I was saying before, how I better be productive and creative this month, because not only am I teaching my 3 classes a month for the School of Earth Astrology, 2 of those live for the golden year. If you're not hip to it, check it out at GeminiBrett.com. But I will also be teaching astronomy for astrologers 3 weeks, 3 Saturdays in June and 3 Saturdays in July, 1 week off in between, for OPA, for the Organization for Professional Astrology. OPA, O-P-A, astrology.org would be the place to find out about that if you're interested in expanding your astronomical awareness and bringing the measurable side of the heavenly happenings into the immeasurable correspondences that we all love. So OPA, astrology.org, go to their events page, and then, I don't know, maybe we can do that together real quick so I can remember. If you're interested, it is a really wonderful program. I don't teach it live all that often. And the curriculum is really coming together. So I'm going to go to opaastrology.org, their events page, and here you can see, well, none of those are it. So let me go to OPA Astrology. I think it's events.org. There you go. So OPA Astrology events.org, and then over here at program, you go to immersion workshops. This is like a scavenger hunt. They've made it very difficult on the site this year. Scroll all the way down and you will find Astronomy for Astrologers with Gemini Brett. You can review this curriculum, the kind of short version, or hit this view curriculum drop down and you'll read a lot about what we get into. I mean, it's a really deep dive, 6 weeks live, of course, with Q&As, and I'll do some study groups and other things. And I'll be running that at the same time as my School of Earth Astrology, which you can find out more about at GeminiBrett.com. I think we have a jam right here on the home screen. This is astrology sessions where you go if you want to do some private work with me. Offerings, you can find a lot of cool free things there. Events, well, I don't update because WordPress freaks me out, so I need to make a change there, and I'm considering it. Courses is a place where you can find a pre-recorded version of Astronomy for astrologers if you don't have time to take it live now. Or check out the School of Earth Astrology. We are halfway through the year about, but you can join whenever. You just have a bunch of stuff to review. We've got a bunch of students. It's really been fun, kind of community building and sharing this love of things like, oh, the 12-spoked wheel. So let's play this game. I actually want to show more of the charts here. And I mean, these are pretty small on the screen, I imagine. I can't make it bigger. Oh, I wonder, let me see if I push this button. Can I stretch this to like crazy size? And then we can move around from one to the other. There would be a way I could do that by simply moving the big chart around the world. I don't know. I'm not going to do any of that. So if you are Gemini rising, that's the place to start with a Gemini event, like a Gemini New Moon. That's Aquarius Saturn's in your 9th, the Aries Moon Jupiter conjunctions in your 11th, at least 11th whole sign, Taurus Venus in the 12th. These are all things for us to consider, but it's going to be a little bit too much. So let's just talk about the Gemini New Moon. If you were born with Gemini in the rise like me, this is about you. It's about your path. Right? Where are you going? Why are you here? What is this place? How do we get out of here? How do we stay? What do we want to do? You know, what am I learning literally as my way of life? That is part of the Gemini design. How am I a change agent? And how does that start right here at home with me? Okay. If you were born with Taurus on the rise, the Gemini new moon is in your 2nd. Right? What do you need? Honestly, like you're rising into the Taurus realms, you're really here to learn chill. And it's going to be helpful to have Venus in your 1st sign, right? Your teacher, your steersman or steerswoman, if you prefer, right? The lady of your horoscopos. If you were born with Taurus rising, then you are a child of Venus. And to have Venus in Taurus right now is a great gift to you. Well, that happens every year, sometimes longer if Venus retrogrades in that sign, which she will not right now. Venus is actually moving quite quickly now as she descends in the morning sky on her way to meet the sun. In fact, for all of us, and maybe especially if you're born with Taurus, Venus or Taurus rising, I very highly recommend you wake up before the light and receive the reflections of Aquarius, Saturn, this Mars, Jupiter conjunction in Aries, and really receive the energy from the goddess, from the guidess, from Taurus, Venus, and remember that you are on a path of learning embodiment and sensuality and how to chill and ground, you know? But what is that when there's a Gemini new moon, this frantic thing in the 2nd, and this Aries energy of Mars expanded by the gas giant guru Jupiter there in your 12th, right? So there might be hidden things getting stirred up for the Taurus beings, yeah. And Gemini, maybe a little frantic, but I will say this, the 2nd always in a sense contradicts the 1st. This is true for all neighboring signs. They couldn't be more unalike. We can hear this in the very kind of roots of our astrological realms, where Taurus is a yin fixed earth sign and Gemini is a yang mutable air sign. They share nothing in common, and traditionally they are inconjunct. They are blind to one another. And this, I feel, is always true for the 1st and the 2nd. We hear it more in our tradition in regards to the other three blind spots from the ascendant, who is you, that the 12th and the 8th and the 6th are the bad houses. The second somehow gets off the hook with that one typically. Though they do say the love of money is the root of all evil. Doesn't mean money is, but I really think that the second is about our needs. Like the first is our incarnation, and then the second, it's like the cord is cut, and holy smokes, like I'm a thing. That's like the first. I'm not everything. I used to be that. It's the 12th. And I'm a thing, and oh my God, I'm in a vessel that like needs water. At first it needs milk, isn't it? And so much about the third, so if we talk from like the global design where Gemini is the third sign of Earth, so much about the third is developing the tools that we need to receive, food, like literally, or touch, or whatever it is that we really need to survive. If we can get in touch with our needs, which is a very tricky thing to do, and develop the tools of how to share those with whom we that can help us, because much of our needs really are rooted in things outside of ourselves, and so is beauty. And if we can receive, then we can feel safe, and we can remember and come into the dream. That's the trine from the 4th to the 12th, by the way. So if you are born with Taurus on the rise, this Gemini new moon is in your second sign, planting seeds for you to remember. That's that retrograde Mercury in your first, to remember like what you truly need, and that having needs is not needy. Like it's okay. It's part of the embodied experience. It's that need that will birth communication and the realization of relation, right? That's like all third. And the 5th of the third, the child of the third, is the 7th, relationships. The 5th of the 7th, the child of relationships, is the 11th, community, friends. The 5th of the 11th is the third, because our groups and communities teach us that we need to realign the way that we speak and share. So if you were born with Taurus on the rise, Gemini is in your second sign. Tune into the truth that you have needs, and part of that is the need to learn. If you were born with Aries on the rise, and this Gemini new moon is in your third. So, very typical of what we say about Gemini. If you are the Aries rising design, this is really about how you speak, how you hear, how you learn, how you share, right? The 9th, higher learning, long journeys. The 3rd, the joy of the moon, perhaps the journeys of the night, which is a thing I think beautiful to consider, but short journeys, the temple, we often say. And I think really the development of the tools that we need to express our needs into this world. That Taurus solar eclipse last month would have been for you Aries rising folks in the second sign. What do I need to survive? And now this Gemini new moon in the third, learning how to speak that into the world. And may that be a lesson for all of us, just given the global nature of the signs as well. That's true for all of us. Like Gemini is about the development of mind, of tools, of language, of communication, of sharing. It's less, by the way, about, hey, what do you need? This is what I need. That's like a 7th house or Libra consideration. And that will be true for the Sagittarius rising folks in this month. So we'll get there. But for those of you born with Aries on the rise, or for all of us at this time with a Gemini new moon, it's more about like, this is what I need, right? And it's not to say be inconsiderate. Right? In fact, you will be a good example to others if you have the courage to speak and share your needs to this world so that you can survive, but you don't do that for the reason, like relational purpose. You do that for you, and that's okay. Aries rising, Mars and Jupiter in your first sign at this time. Maybe they haven't crossed your ascendant yet, but if you were born with Aries in the rising, this is a very important study of selfness, which is not selfish. And in fact, we need selfness to balance othership in the scales of relationship, to meet in the middle way of right relating, you know? So we'll get to Libra soon enough, but let us talk about if you were born with Pisces on the rise. That means this Gemini new moon is in your fourth. With retrograde Mercury in the third, maybe you can review a little bit about how you did not have the tools to speak your needs into the world, or perhaps the things you did share were not heard. Perhaps you weren't speaking in the language of those that you were trying to share your truths and needs to. And maybe that's also alive for you at this time in your home today, but reaching back into your childhood, into your roots, digging up some of the memories of suppressed things to do some healing and some rearrangement, like in like the deep places. And it's a really good idea, by the way, to move your furniture around and to change, to move in general. If you've been considering it, this Gemini new moon in a fourth for you Pisces rising beings could be a great window of literally changing where you reside. But if you don't plan to, change where you reside by moving the couch and things around. It happened here. All right, what about Aquarius on the rising? Well, if Aquarius is rising, then Gemini hosting this current new moon is your fifth sign. Passion, romance, risks. It's a really big word there. These days we say games of chance, the dice, you know? And we roll Aries, Pluto on the 7th. Okay, we'll get to Libra soon enough. Anyway, like having that opportunity to really bring that creative spark. And with Taurus, Mercury retrograde in your fourth sign, those of you born with Aquarius on the rise, where Saturn is here to teach you that design of expanding your awareness in this lifetime to include the many. Well, there's something with retrograde Taurus, Mercury in the fourth sign of the Aquarius rising design, saying that like this, go back to the ancestors, but also go back to your own unique childhood. Like if you want to contribute in community, you have to bring you to the scene and your creativity. What are you passionate about? Don't make a living, make a loving. Do what you love, follow your bliss, and they will follow you. Like if you really want to change the world, it starts here. And this Gemini new moon will be an opportunity for you born with Aquarius on the rise to really spark a new kind of creative expression, to give birth to something new. And in fact, this is the month where Aquarius rising beings, just as far as we follow the moon and the sun, will be especially fertile. Yeah. So if that's the plan, if that's not the plan, right? And I wonder, again, like I'm born Gemini rising, but I have Mercury, the steersman of my chart, for I am a child of Mercury. His home of Gemini was rising when I rose. With Mercury in my own natal fifth, it makes me wonder if that's why I have such kind of a creative spark at this time of the year, when the days get long here in the Northern Hemisphere. Maybe it's just because there's more light. Right. What if you were born with Capricorn on the rise? This Gemini new moon is in your sixth. Consider your health, especially the lungs, right? So like really doing some breath work at this time, but also what is your sacred work? How, for those of you who have come to study tradition and eldership and walk a path of keeping and retrieving and then keeping the true traditions of Earth alive for the 7 future generations, how is part of that sacred work to do the learning and the sharing and the speaking? And with Mercury retrograde now in your fifth, like actually I think speaking with the kids, looking to the youth to help you remember what we've forgotten from the ancients, if you will. If you were born with Sagittarius on the rise, this Gemini new moon is in your seventh, the place of relationship, of othership. This isn't only your beloved other, a spouse or the like. The seventh, we also say, is known enemies, any one-on-one relationship. So this Gemini new moon will stimulate your relating. And, I encourage you to choose change before change chooses you, and see this as a venue of an opportunity for growth, that there are things that you will learn this month if you have the courage to be seen through the eyes of another and see another through your eyes and attempt to see the world through the eyes of another. These are all seventh house, callings, can really stimulate your learning at this time on your great journey. For you children of Jupiter born with Sagittarius on the rise are the true philosophers on this greatest journey. And I would encourage you to actually see what happens if you try to speak with someone who doesn't share the same language that you do, like literally, and see what kind of things you have to do to communicate, and see how you can communicate anyway. If you were born with Scorpio on the rise, this Gemini new moon is in your 8th, and it is time to die, to be reborn. So live and let die, sang Mr. McCartney. The 8th, I think, is die and let live. What are you willing to release? Perhaps to forgive, so new life will come your way. Scorpio rising, Gemini new moon in the 8th. This also looks in some ways like the spy game, right? So you are on a path of a very courageous heart, art, evolution. You Scorpio rising, children of Mars, in this 8th realm of Gemini, says actually living light might seem like something you need to destroy, that the Scorpio rising path is a little too serious for that, but it isn't. The 8th is apparently at first that which we must slay to walk our way, but actually it is the place where we can be reborn. And may this Gemini new moon in the 8th sign of the Scorpio rising design with retrograde Mercury in the 7th allow you perhaps to remember some of the old scar tissue of relationships past, and not push that away, but bring it in to kind of follow through and be reborn into a youthful way. For those of you born with Libra on the rise, Gemini is in the 9th sign of your design. The long journey, right? Now, Libra rising, interestingly, kind of flips the flow, at least in the modern astrologer's eyes, where Aries is the first. Well, it's not if you were born with Libra rising. Aries is the 7th. But when you hear things like, oh, Gemini's like the 3rd, then suddenly you have Gemini on the 9th, and you have Capricorn on the 4th, and you have Taurus on the 8th, and everything seems flipped. Well, that's part of the gig, you children of Venus, Libra rising, who are here literally to study the world through the way that you relate. Being seen through the eyes of the other, seeing the world through the eyes of the other, allowing yourself to see yourself through the eyes of the other, flipping things around and really studying you through how you relate. In the 9th is this place of great journey. How do you relate to places, people far away, and the furthest thing, but perhaps the closest? In the old language, the 9th is the house of God. So what is your spiritual path? Be there, and you will find that the 5th of the 9th, the child of the 9th, is the first. It is your spiritual journey that will give birth to the new you. If you were born with Virgo on the rise, Gemini is your 10th, and you have the same ruler, to use the modern word, Mercury, of the 1st and the 10th, which means you might want to work for yourself. And this 10th is a really wonderful opportunity, this Gemini new moon in your 10th sign, you born with Virgo on the rise. Typically, you will have a Gemini midheaven too, whether you're born north or south of the equator. These equinox signs like Virgo, Libra tend to have these very kind of square charts, and so more often than not, the midheaven of the chart is also in the whole sign 10th. Virgo rising beings, this means Gemini 10th, and so there's a lot of Mercury, and part of your gig, you hear studying the sacred, studying the systems, studying the mercurial magic of the intricate pieces of the thing, you Virgo rising beings. Part of the gig is Gemini in the 10th, which means share this, speak this, even if it's something weird like astrology. Mercury loves weird, and with Mercury now retrograde in the 9th in Taurus, there's something that you already know, and probably that you learned from nature, that you are here to share. And may this Gemini new moon inspire that light. And I would say, just like this, especially if you feel it's a little bit too weird, like it might rock the boat, that's the thing for you to offer to this world right now. Only when we truly engage with making a loving and make our right livelihood, aligned with this kind of vocational energy of how we give our fruits to the world. The 10th, will we find our true community, the 11th. And of course, this Gemini new moon is in the 11th sign for those of you born with Leo on the rise. Leo rising, the Gemini sun. You are children of the sun after all, now moving through your 11th, and the moon meeting the sunlight there for this new moon, this seed in the 11th place. Who's your crew? Who's your community? Who is your team? Who's your circle? Right? If you really want to shine bright light into this world and learn about radiance and walk this path of honor and royalty, well, friends, the queen needs a court. Okay, and that's all right. Yeah, so I love this image of the lights aligning in your 11th sign, you born with Leo on the rise, retrograde Mercury in the 10th sign of the Leo design, saying, hey, like there are ways where you in your own kind of public appearance should be remembered or reorganized to assist you, allowing yourself to really bring in your crew, those who share a like mind and light heart, to change this place in a good way. And all you have to do, Leo on the rise, is be that radiant example of walking your truth. And finally, we find Gemini is in the 12th sign for those born with Cancer on the rise. So you children of the moon, here with the moon meeting the sun in the 12th place of the hidden, consider the mysteries, consider that which lives beyond the veil. The 12th is the 5th of the 8th. When we experience death, it births grief. The 12th is the 5th of the 8th. When we bring ourselves to the occult mysteries, the veil opens. When things die, 8th, we ask why. 9th, the 4th of the 9th is the 12th. Why? Because learning and journeying should keep its home in the unknown, and the unknown is a beautiful place. Do not fear the way of the 12th. It is your friend. There are things that live beyond the veil that are here to guide you in this life of light and awakeness. And probably a good month to sleep a lot and receive visions from the other side. I just received a vision called a stark glare from my Pisces rising beloved, who says I'm not allowed to talk about sleeping a lot at any time. All right, so there's like a quick journey through the 12 signs. Speaking of quick journeys, that's part of the Gemini design. Sagittarius, where we will find the full moon of this month, right? So it's a Gemini Sagittarius lunation. The full moon will be at 2325 Sagittarius. So really inspired for those long journeys, those long jams. Like, where are you going? It's amazing. We have this royal star new moon, Aldebaran new moon in the sign of Gemini. And speaking of Gemini, books. And we have this Sagittarius full moon, rather close to the galactic center. I mean, the greatest journey, this place, this unknowable place with the super massive black hole, white hole in the center, this place of death and rebirth and regeneration and hundreds of gazillions of stars or whatever it may be. There's this place perhaps even more mysterious called the Great Attractor, you may know. So this Sagittarius full moon is like literally somewhere in between the Great Attractor and the galactic center. I mean, it's just crazy. And there's something beautifully Sagittarian in all that. Yeah, the great journey. And so let's plant seeds. We don't always have a Sagittarius full moon following a Gemini new moon. We do at this time. We can't have Gemini new moon with a Capricorn full moon, right? I'm going to tone down the points we see on that Gemini full moon chart. And let's see if we can gaze at these two side by side. Thank you, Astro Gold, for that. I mean, it's cool. We can actually see the synastry of the Gemini new moon and the Sagittarius full moon. How do they relate to one another? But things that I think can be really healthy to see. You know what? Let me cast this being again in the 0 Aries wheel. And then let's try that. More buttons. So, you know, what has changed since? So, like between the new moon and the full moon, Mercury will station direct and move from Taurus back into Gemini. This is the time of Mercury's maximum elongation, which is actually June 16th, a couple days after the full moon of this lunation. But that's a big deal. Mercury will be most visible as a morning star and right at the first degree of Mercury sign, which is exactly where Mercury retrograde conjoined the sun recently to begin this Gemini Mercury cycle. So moon comes between Earth and sun every month. New moon, Mercury comes between Earth and sun about every 4 months. 115.88 days on average, but who's counting? We are. There's pi of these Mercury cycles every year, a little bit more than 3. Amazing Mercury, and what a gift to have this current Mercury cycle aligned at that first degree of Gemini, this place that is in our day and age marked by the Pleiades, parts of the cluster, some of the 7 sisters. Oh, one of them is their father, Atlas, lives on the Taurus side and parts live on the Gemini side. What an amazing trip. You will see that between the new moon and the full moon, Saturn has moved from forward motion to retrograde motion. You will see that Mars has moved from the side of Jupiter at the new moon in early degrees of Aries to the side of Chiron about halfway through that sign. You will see that Venus, who has recently ingressed Taurus for the celebrating this Gemini new moon, has moved from these early degrees to 11. Well, that sounds like twins. To past Uranus here at 20 degrees Taurus for the new moon, very close to the node Uranus. So we feel like this calling forward, all right? So looking at the changes from the new moon to the full moon can often, especially in Gemini time, which is a sign of change and rearrangement, help us get some more clues about, well, not only what this might want from us. I think that's a little bit too heavy of a statement, especially for a Gemini new moon, but what energies are available to us at this time. And let's just look at the energies of this moment in this Gemini new moon design. Mars, Jupiter, now Mars now separating from Jupiter, okay? And the moon actually, just before she came to conjoin the sun, her most recent aspect before this conjunction was the sextile with Mars, right? So she's carrying the light of Mars to the sun who's now separating from Mars in their sextile. So moon is kind of connecting those two, really bringing a cup of coffee to this Gemini new moon, if you will, really bringing like vigor and fire and energy to do something new. Right? This is a strong energy that you can utilize for great change in your own realm. Think about where this new moon, this 903 Gemini new moon, is in your chart. How does it align to your natal planets? All the things. So Gemini do all the things, all right? So Mars is really stimulating this energy now. The next aspect this moon will make after she leaves the side of the sun is with Saturn in Aquarius. So she travels quite a way between 903 Gemini with the meeting with the sun until we have that trine with Saturn here. 2513. Check out Neptune at 2513. And in fact, Moon will square Neptune before trining Saturn. Probably. Saturn, as I said, is actually moving very slowly right now, only 32 seconds per day. Actually, Saturn's moving more slow than Neptune at this time because Saturn is slowing to retrograde. So I stand corrected. Actually, the Moon will trine Saturn before squaring Neptune, but we'll basically do this at the same time because 2513 and 2513 are the same thing. A cool truth, as I said before, according to our tradition, neighboring signs like Aquarius and Pisces are blind to one another. And Saturn and Neptune are so significantly different, you know? But for the Gemini moon in the later degrees, it's fun for me to consider because my moon lives at 2501 Gemini. So I'll have a lunar return at this time where the moon will trine Saturn and square Neptune. And it just reminds me, right? Sometimes going live like this and sharing about the global chart, it's like, oh yeah, like I'm having Neptune squaring my moon right now. And Saturn's trine my moon. There's a story of tension and release there. Well, the same thing will be true for us in a sense globally. It's always interesting to consider where is the moon coming from and where is she going? Like what was the last aspect she made and which is the next one she will, what energy is she carrying to this new moon event and which energy like comes next? And from a traditional point of view, the answer is she sextiled Mars to come to the sun and then she will trine Saturn. So Mars and Saturn have a bad rap in traditional astrology as the malefics, right? But sextile and trines have great raps as the aspects of the benefics. The sextile traditionally associated with the planet Venus and the trine with the planet Jupiter. We also see Mars, as we say, bona fide at this time, being Jupiterized, and Mars at home, Aries, Saturn at home, Aquarius. So these are very comfortable planets. Right? I mean, these contributions to this Gemini new moon will happen in a good way. So there is initiative, there is energy, there is purpose, there is path, there is something worth, trailblazing, as we often say, especially this Mars and Aries energy. There's something new, right? In Gemini, there's something change. In Aquarius, Saturn, something that will literally have long-standing, purposeful, and powerful effects for community in the world. Now, as far as I'm concerned, if we have to look with Gemini at heaven and hell, there are, controllers that are trying to use the energies, including an energy like this, to create long-standing structures that do not look so pretty, that are not your utopia. And the coming moon square to Neptune will perhaps speak of some of that delusion and confusion in the way that I've seen collective compassion manipulated to bring a fog of confusion. Well, Gemini is here to laugh its way through that fog, to raise the sails, and perhaps can call upon this Gemini Neptune, which is now trining that south node, for a place of faith. I love this retrograde Mercury in Taurus, right? So something about going back to the old ways, remembering that square with Saturn, right? Like challenging the authorities, slowing down to really expand that conversation, receiving Gemini Mercury, this trine from Pluto, this empowerment, this fearlessness to look into hell. So this sextile with Neptune, this remembrance of faith, can really enact and support the change available to us in this Gemini new moon. Mercury heading back to Gemini, Venus in Taurus, Mars in Aries, Saturn in Aquarius. This chart is full of what we call essential dignity. It's going to rank really high on the medieval scorecard. We don't want to get lost in that way, but it helps us kind of see more. And I want to show again the Sagittarius full moon, where we also have Mercury at home in Gemini. Look at how strong that chart is. Now, importantly, this is a night chart scorecard where Mercury in Gemini is also said to be in triplicity, because Mercury is said to rule the air signs in a night chart. That will look a little bit lower in a day chart. But look, friends, it's all positive, you know? So again, don't get lost in medieval scorecard astrology, but don't not look at all of the information you can at this time. That doesn't mean you have to believe it. And this is a huge piece of this thing. Learn it all, take what works, throw away what does not. Yeah. Somehow, this busyness of this time, this kind of Aries inspired, Mars instigated Gemini journey of all the things, is not really going to work unless we can also open our hearts to the Venusian Taurus realm. So retrograde, slow, hitting the brakes, Pleiadian Taurus, Mercury square Saturn, the teacher of slow, sextile and Neptune, who's even slower, trine Pluto, the slowest of them all. Well, until we go even further out, you know, there's something where Mercury says, actually, if you want to get fast and you want to make changes, you're going to have to slow down. You're going to have to meditate. You're going to have to remember. You're going to have to reclaim. And oh my gosh, oh my goddess, the goddess Venus celebrates this and says, look, Aries, chill out. Look, Gemini, take it easy, relax that rat race so you can tune into the earth pace. I am here helping you anchor into the beauty of all that is. Like if you want to go read a book right now, read a book of the earth. Like literally get outside and sit with one of these flowers and count her petals and smell her fragrance and watch how the bees dance and what are they doing. Like you will learn so much more from the beauty of earth than you will in any of your books at this time. But that doesn't mean you shouldn't join me in the School of Earth Astrology, right? So GeminiBrett.com, friends, if you want to learn more about how I pet this cosmic cat, I would love to transmit some of those things to you. A couple places I will direct your gaze once again. GeminiBrett.com will bring you on the main page to learn a little bit more about the School of Earth Astrology Year 1, the golden year. Year 2 actually comes soon. We're halfway through this year where we are tuning into astrological fundamentals like polarity, triplicity, quadruplicity, soul path, the rudder and the steersman, the thema mundi, general aspect theory, planetary speed, like all sorts of fun things. So check us out there. I'm also teaching sacred geometry. Later today after sessions, I will be teaching more about six and sixness and the seed of life and showing us how these drawings can really help us connect to beautiful truths like the 12 whole sign designs and playing games with astro dice, for example, to expand our awareness and help us get, well, let's say Gemini, sorry, Venus and Taurus, but faster with our intimate connection to and expression of the heavenly happenings. Song of the Soul, a place you can go. So GeminiBrett.com. 2022 Moon Songs will bring you quickly to a place where you can just click a button that will open Erik Deutsch's Bandcamp page. And you can hear our 13 new moons of 2022 for free. We started this jam with the Gemini version. And, you know, if you dug it, you can go there and listen to that a few times and may it inspire some quirky visions for this Gemini new moon, this Sagittarius full moon, this Gemini Sagittarius lunation of change and journey and expansion and learning. All right. At opaastrologyevents.org, you can get to, I just want to show you this again because it is quite a scavenger hunt. So opaastrologyevents.org, hover here on program, and then to immersion workshops. Or here is, I should just create a quick link for this. opaastrologyevents.org/immersion-workshops, and scroll all the way down. So if you're diligent, then you can find your way to Astronomy for Astrologers. We begin June 11th, 3 Saturdays in June, 3 Saturdays in July after a 1-week break. 4-hour classes, 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. Pacific. Of course, everything recorded and yours to view, like to the end of days, or at least until my website finds its end. And that, yeah, it's a wonderful, powerful curriculum. Limited to 40 students, and we already have 23. So if you want to join now. You can view the curriculum here. And it is good to bring the measurable side of the heavenly happenings, and that is the astronomy, to our correspondences, the immeasurable. So if you are diligent with your scavenger skills and you can find your way to this website, you will also find a place where you can register for Astronomy for Astrologers, which I am teaching once again for OPA, the Organization for Professional Astrology. It is part of their certification curriculum. And if you are an astrologer, especially a professional astrologer, I highly recommend OPA's certification curriculum, which includes a lot of consulting skills and peer review. It's an amazing program. But you can take my Astronomy for Astrologers program for sure without being on a path of certification for OPA. So there's a bunch of things. Gemini is a bunch of things, but things, my friends, are thinks, and thinks are things. With Mercury retrograde in Taurus at the time of this Gemini new moon, let's slow down and really consider how our narration of our experience actually creates our experience. So tune into the spells, my friend. What to say, what not to say, what not to say, but how to say it based upon who you are saying it to. And we are always speaking to self, to soul, and to spirit. Let's do this intentionally and see what happens. Thanks for spending some time with me. This is your friendly astrolonaut, Gemini Brett, signing off. I will see you in space.